Namaste to all of you. When I got the invitation for this program, what attracted me was the name of the university, which I had heard, that is the Plaksha. Yes, Plaksha is a Vedic word. The Plaksha Prasaravana, that is from where the Saraswati river started. And Plaksha is, the seeds are so small, but it can grow into such a big tree. That's what friend Professor Pratap was mentioning. I'm sure it will happen. The second point is, which was already mentioned, about the relationship with Takshashila. Takshashila is where Kautilya was supposed to have studied. No, anyway, it is there. And if you see Kautilya's Arthashastra, the kingdom had 24 departments or whatever, and he lists all the heads of the departments for so many things, for taking care of thieves, taking care of fireworks, taking care of so many things, 24 departments, none for education. The government did not interfere into education system. And he says if there is a doubt for the king or for the group of people, they would go to Aranya and question. That is the forest, people who are living in the forest, that is the rishis or whatever. So I'm very happy to be here. Let me start with my presentation. A topic which has been suggested to me by Professor Gopinath. I will try to take you through some work which I have done, which has bearing on history as well as Sanskrit texts, how Sanskrit texts can be to some extent deciphered. I will not go into the methodology, but I will be presenting more about the results. You want to switch off the lights or is it okay? Okay, fine. The most important thing when it comes to observational astronomy is going to be what's called the precision of the axis of Earth. That is called the axial precision. Just this is the background, you need not worry too much about it. You would see that the center is shown in the left diagram, Earth, and the Earth rotates. There are three kinds of cycles. One is the daily rotation, the daily cycle. The second one is the annual, which goes around the sun and have 1 year. There's one more cycle. That is a very long one of about 26,000 years, where the north pole of the Earth, not celestial pole, it makes a rotation in the sky and different pole stars come into view for human beings on Earth. It's a very slow process. In one lifetime, you will not be able to understand that, but you need a longer lifetime. But there is an associated effect on that also, not only on the North Pole, after all, we are all on the northern hemisphere, the same thing happens in the other end, but there is something which happens with the seasons and the stars associated with it. So, within a few years, within about a lifetime, one can recognize some stars seem to have changed or the seasons have changed. That is what is called generally the precision of the equinoxes. But both the phenomena are same. It is due to the same phenomenon. Now, all the ancient texts, if at all there is any historical line in it, can be brought under this precision cycle because it is a very long cycle, and we will see what it means to us. Now, I will go in a particular order, and my interest has been in the texts which belong to the pre-Siddhantic period. That is, which are before, I would say, even 100 AD, 100 BC, something of that kind. Now, when I say about a text, it doesn't mean these texts which are available today are that old. The manuscripts are not that old. That is written. I'm showing one manuscript at the top. This is called the manuscript from a page from a Vridhagargiya Jyotisha, or also called Vridhagarga Samhita. This is about 5,000 shlokas, also some prose material in that. This was all copied and recopied every 200 years. So the oldest one available in the country is about 500 years old in the manuscript libraries. What we got about 15 of them taken up from different manuscripts. Yesterday I was showing to Madam Sunita, Ms. Sunita, that we have them, and I'm just showing one example. Now, how do we analyze this? It's such a huge one. It is on ancient astronomy, And if you have to know the astronomical tradition that we are having from Aryabhata onwards, you have to know from where it came. It come from Greeks or from Babylonia, or is there some roots, the Plaksha like root in this country itself, even though it may be very small? That is the kind of thing, that question that we are asking at the Center for Ancient History in Jain University. That is my personal interest. So in this, there is one season statement. That season statement, of course, season means due to sun. Sun and the season, they are interrelated. This is all very well established from the Vedic period. He also gives the visible stars. The name of the nakshatras are given, of which season contains which nakshatra. For example, just in English I have put up here, sun's transit starting from Shravishta nakshatra till half of Revati is Shishir Ratu. Because the 4.5 nakshatras is going to be Shishir Ratu. Then similarly 4.5 it goes. So there is a cycle here which I have put up just for case of representation. Now, if you can see at the top, oh, I wish I had something here. See, this is the top part. There is a, we have written it as Dhanishta, it should not matter. And I have marked the longitude 270 degrees. So, Shishiritu starts, the modern longitude, if you take at 270 degrees, that is the winter solstice. And similarly, here on this side, there is a half of Ashlesha, and that is going to be the, uh, I'm sorry, the summer, it will be the summer solstice. Now, this of course he doesn't say. He gives only the nakshatras are visible every 4.5, every 61 days, because each ritu is 61 days. There is no month here in this case. Now, my question was, can I analyze this by modern principles? It will be possible provided the stars which are mentioned I can identify today in the catalog, in the international catalog, Then, I can use any of the softwares, or I can write a code and go back due to precision, because the precision means about 1 degree in 72 years. So it keeps on going. Today, winter solstice doesn't occur at that. The some other nakshatra, but I should know that. I should know with reference to a modern catalog. That is the crux of the matter. So we did an exercise on this. Some of them are very well understood. For example, Kritika, even today we can locate it. Magha, I can reasonably identify with Regulus, is a bright star. Jeshta, I can identify. But some of the others like Purubhadrapada, that is Proshtapada, very difficult. It doesn't seem to match with what is given in our almanacs today. There is some notation which is there in the INSA catalog also, from Lahiri's catalog, and so on and so forth, M.N. Saha's catalog of what nakshatras were there. There was a revision of the calendar, but that doesn't match with the ancient ones. So there is a problem. That means some of these might have been forgotten, or some of the stars might have moved into some other sectors, and this problem is there. So we have to first identify, go to the most ancient text, make a data, collect all the data and see what may be the most possible things. Very interesting things come out. Generally, it is thought the 27 nakshatras are there, they will be identified one like this. That is not true. The ancients did not do like that. They did a wonderful thing. They said each nakshatra may have one star. Some of them have only single. Some of them will be having 2, 3, 5, 6, up to 6 stars. And if you say so many stars, how do you identify them? They gave the shape and the geometry. And that is all explained in some of these ancient texts. One is the Vridagargya Jyotisha, which I was just now mentioning in the manuscript, a Parashara Tantra, which I have published with some collection of material. Then there is one AVP, that is the Atharva Veda Parishishta. That gives a list of how many stars are there in each nakshatra. And similarly, in the Shardula Karnavadana, which is a Buddhist text, there also it is given the multiple stars. And then one more, the Jain text called Surya Chandra Prajnapti. And all these explain how to identify these nakshatras. Some of them look like, we have made a diagram here, is a nakshatra mala. Kritika looks like what do you call, a cleaver or something we used to cut. You can see the figure there at the top. It looks like that. If you join all the 6 stars, it looks something like this. And if you see the next one, Rohini, Rohini is like a cart. There's a Vedic cart. It's a Somashakata. Somashakata was triangular. And with the 5 stars, you can see Rohini, the, to the left of that, it looks like a cart. So like that you can go through. Some of them are very difficult, but some of them are easy. So we have done this. For example, Sarpa, that is the Ashlesha, it is here, and it looks like the head of a serpent, a cobra which has its hood. It looks like that. So this is how they have explained, which is much better than the modern Rashis and the zodiac, and also Mesha, Vrishabha, and it looks like that. Don't get the figure with the modern ones. But in the ancient time with the Greek ones, it was possible to get it. But this is 27 and not 12. And one more, these 27 were made of 83 stars. So there is a fine grind kind of work, which they were planning to do, and the complete circle like that. Well, we have been able to identify the stars also with the modern constituent stars, which is there. Not going to all the details. So with this, we go back and ask the question, if these stars, which is mentioned here, have to be in these things, do they fit into a particular thing, like a jigsaw puzzle or not? So when we do that, we find that yes, it does fit in, because we had to take an error norm, and the error norm is going to be whether it is within that longitude. So starting from, we have done it from minus 2500, that is 2500 BC, up to the modern times. It's easy anyway on the computer. Once you write the code and finalize it, don't take more than a minute to get all these results. And if you do it, I get a minimum error somewhere around 1300 BC. So 1300 BC, maybe 1400, maybe plus or minus that. And there is also a region where it is precisely zero. For about 60 years, it is precisely zero. About 10 to another 60 years, it is precisely zero. It indicates that the observation should have happened somewhere in 1300 or 1400 BC. Oh, that is a pretty ancient time. And one would be curious to know whether something was there even before that has happened. Now, this text, this Vridagargi Jyotisha, why should we study ancient texts? Is one question. It's of importance to all disciplines. The reason is this: it has one more statement. This one more statement is in the red line here. This is about the months, is not about the seasons. It is given in the 59th chapter, whereas the original one was in the 11th chapter. Whereas this is in the 59th chapter. I told you it has about 5,000 shlokas. It is towards the end. So if you see that, he gives a different set of stars for the months, which he calls the solar months, which are the Vaidika months. He calls Madhu, Madhava kind of thing. And he gives the equivalent Chaitra, Vaishaka for that. I can do the same analysis there also. If I do that, I don't get the same answer. I get this red line. And the minimum is around 500 BC. So you get a very important result. 500 BC is one thing, but this text contains some information, added information, layer by layer, like the Himalayas building up. And the social conditions in the country could also be reflected, which was prevalent from 1300 BC to 500 BC. So in that period also there is some information, may not be astronomical, maybe something else. And this text has also information about planets and all those things. I will not be able to go into that, but these are the two, you get a footprint in this text, in this ancient text. Now, I can ask another question, which I had already raised. Is there something even before that? So the texts which are before of this period quickly go into the Vedic period. So the Vedic Samhitas are the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda kind of thing. That is all what I can analyze as data available to me. I don't have anything else. And one of the texts, in fact, we have been reading all of them and studying, pouring on these things. One text called the Maitraniya Aranyaka. It's also called a Upanishad. We need not worry about it. It's the Maitraniya Aranyaka. It's a very interesting text. He defines what is time. So he says, Suryo Yonihi Kalasya. Surya is the generatrix of time. Before this text, there was no specific definition of time. He says it is that. And he also says N Nimeshadi, etc., etc. And then he gives seasons, not in the sense of the 6 seasons, but a felt weather like Agneya, Saumya, which starts with Magadhyam. It is actually a 6 monthly ayana. Ayana means sun's movement for 6 months from the left to right. Left to right means what? If on the horizon we observe the sunrise, we know that around the summer solstice, which happens around June 21st or so nowadays, the sunrise point seems to be stationary in the same place sun is rising. Similarly, in the winter solstice around December 21st, it seems as though sun is rising at the same point. These are called the standstill for solar standstill. And many of the architectural buildings, at least in other countries like in South America, they're supposed to have been built corresponding to these 2 points in the ancient time. Here also it might have happened, but in the text indicated, I don't know of any building which has been there, most ancient ones, because we go into a very ancient period before 1500 BC that steps into already the Indus Valley civilization. So that is what we have to keep in our mind. But the text says it starts with Magha, and Shravishta half is going to be the summer months. That is starting from Magha and going up to half of Shravishtar. And similarly, from Shravishtarda, it comes out. It's in a very archaic language. You need not worry about it. What it means is, if I take a circle, there are the 6 seasons I have marked. There is the Varsha season, is the Sharat, and then goes the Hemanta, then the Shishira kind of thing. It comes to this, is the Grishma. The joining point of Grishma and Varsha Rutu is the summer solstice, recognized even from the most ancient Vedic satras called Gavamayana and others. And that is also called the Vishuvat day, the central day of the year, because they started the day not exactly on the winter solstice, but somewhere near that. And that is how it was done. And it has to be Magha Nakshatra, he says. This Magha Nakshatra is actually, as I told you, it is Regulus along with 6 other stars. Regulus is a very bright star. But above that, like that is given in the table which I had previously, what should be the akara or the shape of that? It is in the shape of what is Koshtagara. It is in the shape of a room like this. It is there in that shape. Now the Jain texts call it, it is like a sickle. That is something with which you cut. Both are possible, but there is no difficulty in identifying that star. So if we do that, there are very interesting things come up, and we want to question to what period it may belong. Now, this text gives some more statement about it. That is the interesting thing. It says, Kalat Sambritam Dwadashatmakam Vatsaram. There are 12 divisions which are possible in a Vatsara. That is not the Rashis, but 12 parts in the sky or whatever. And then Tatra Ekaika Atmano Navamshaka Sacharaka. Each will be of 2.5. Navamshaka would be 9 quarters. That is the 2.25, nakshatra. Nakshatra, if you take it 2.25, you are going to get 27 into 2.25, 108. So the least count, if you want, in those periods, they kept it as quarter nakshatra. You may ask, how do they measure that nakshatra? It is only by sunrise. If you start your day from the fixed point on the left side, that is sunrise is happening, and you keep on counting the number of sunrises. That is the Ahargana, which has later on taken to the Siddhantic astronomy, whereas here it was a shorter Ahargana. In fact, in the Vedas, there is also a Ahargana Yaga which is mentioned, where they have to count the number of days for something. So if you count that, each nakshatra will be occupied for about 13.5 days approximately. That is also mentioned in some of the Vedic texts, 13, 5 by 9 days for each of these solar nakshatra. Because the year was 366 days. They wanted it as an integer, so they took it as 366. Then what happened to this quarter day? Why did they want a quarter day? Now that is not, an answer is not available in that. But surprisingly, in the Brahmanda Purana it is available. So the Brahmanda Purana is a very interesting text. It is perhaps one of the texts which is very near to the Vedas, because much of the Vedic numbers and much of the Vedic stories, legends, they are all given there in a more matter-of-fact manner. I will come to that in another 1 minute. And this says, Sharad Vasantayor Madhya Vishuvam. Vishuvam means the equinox in that context. And he defines that equinox, the morning and the night, that is the morning and the evening, that is the two half of the day, they are of equal duration. That is 15 Muhurta morning from sunrise to sunset. From sunset to sunrise is going to be another 15 Muhurta. That is what is equinox. There are two equinoxes, Sharat in the season, Sharat season. Can't call it autumn because in English we have only 4 seasons. We have 6 seasons here. And Vasanta Madhya, the spring thing, is also the Ishva. And he gives the equinox if it is in 1/4 of Kritika, the definitions are given here, they read. When the sun is in the first Amsha, quarter of Kritika, it has to be understood that moon is in the 4th Amsha of Vishaka. That is the statement. Now, this is very intriguing. So, what is the connection of the moon being given like that? If you see that, a very interesting thing comes out. That's what the same figure what I showed previously, I have made it. If it is 1/4 of Kritika here and 3/4 of Vishaka will be here, of this sector, not of the nakshatras, because the Alpha Libra, which is Vishaka, and Kritika, which is Pleiades, they are at 165 degrees separation, not 180 degrees. But that line which he mentions in the Purana is 180 degrees. So if sun is there rising in 1/4 Kritika and moon is going to be there 3/4 Vishaka, it has to be a full moon. It cannot be anything otherwise. So one more shloka is there that also says if sun is in the other side, moon is going to be in the Kritika, and that's also going to be a full moon. So there are 2 full moon conditions which they have given, and we decided we'll put our knowledge and effort and availability of computers and a person, a coder who left Yahoo and come to us and who can code all these things in his own way. And we have softwares available, and we have astronomical softwares are dime a dozen. Freely you can get so many things. There are free astronomical softwares which you can verify also later on. And what we did was simulate the full moons for about 3,000 years, all full moons. Every year there is going to be about 12 to 13 full moon. It cannot be more than that. Simulate the 3,000 or 4,000, whatever it is, and then take the ones which are going to be near the equinox. Equinox is only 0 degrees and 180 degrees. That we know. So if we plot the full moons, this is what we are getting. And this vertical division, and the Purana itself says, the equinox is at 1/4 of Kritika. So I can make a mark for Kritika easily, taking 3 degrees 20 minutes below and the remaining above, because each nakshatra is going to be 13 degrees 20 minutes. And Kritika is visible for them, at least during that period, because it is called the Kartiki. And similarly, on the other side, it is called the Vaishakhi. So in spring equinox, it is the Vaishakhi Purnima. And in the autumn equinox, that is Sharad equinox, it is the Kartiki Purnima. Kartiki Purnima, Vaishakhi Purnima, they are important even now. But their connection with equinox is lost today because of various other reasons. And if I plot the position of the stars, you see the straight line which is inclined like this, because of precision, their position is changing. So again, the previous question comes up. So I can precise it and mark the line. And if this should be valid, is it realistic is the question. Yes, there would be, if the Brahmanda Purana statement belongs to this period. That's about 1980 BC to about 1600 BC or whatever. This is quite realistic because Vridagargi Jyotisha, what it gives, 1300 BC. And it starts with the winter solstice. And winter solstice was Shravishtadi is what is given in all of those texts. This is not Shravishtadi. And the interesting discovery was this. Whether you take the rising days for sun and plot it, or we take the modern longitudes, they is exactly consistent with the Vedic things are going to be beginning of Magha and going to be half of Shravishta. And the Brahmanda Purana, Equinoxes 1/4 of Kritika and 3/4 of Vishaka. It cannot be anything other than that. So it is so perfect, like a jigsaw puzzle fits in two different texts. And this belongs to, as I showed, approximately 1800. So we get one more signature like this from 1300 to 1800. So you become more ambitious to see whether something more is available. Maybe I will take another 5 minutes of your time and then, leave it. So the Parashara Tantra, Vardagargya Jyotisha, even Lagadas Vedanga Jyotisha, they all use the Shravishta, this scheme. They start their not a new year, but counting the days from the winter solstice. Whereas before that, it was the summer solstice. Now, we have published a paper where we have given all the details, because the summer solstice rise of sun is mentioned also indirectly in the Rig Veda. When we go back, the matter-of-fact statements keep on decreasing, but kind of legendary statements start coming up, but you can make meaning out of them also. So what was the fixed thing which was there even before that? Is there something which is reliable or nothing is available, was the next question. We see that this is answered very easily and everyone knows about it. This is the story of Dhruva. If we can decipher the story of Dhruva, which of course is the evening lecture, pravachana and so on and so forth everywhere, all over India. But as the son of Uttanapada, there was a child and he went to Himalayas, do a penance. He got the boon from Vishnu that you become the pole star and stay fixed. And your mother Suniti would also be near you till the end of the world or something like that, which is in the Puranas. Clearly says it is a celestial legend because it becomes a star. So my question was, we all have studied this. And one question which Professor Pratap was raising, why don't we study the correct history? Well, it is $1 million question. But in the text, at least if it is studied, the children will have these things coming up more and more, And the Puranas which say about these stories, they were all written around 500 AD. That's in the Gupta period. Their language indicates it. The content also indicates it. So if it talks about Dhruva, what does it say? It doesn't say simply about one Dhruva. It gives a constellation. There is a constellation called Shishumara, and the tip of that, at the tail of that, is Dhruva, is what the Purana says. That was not visible at all in 500 AD. Because we know from modern, the precision which I showed in the first, and this is a sketch, from the International Union I have showing, today's pole star is here. And this is in the Ursa Minor. There are only 7 stars here. Whereas there is another constellation here, which is the Draco, which is called Draco, which has today 15 stars are shown. But this star, which is here called Thuban in modern language, is called Alpha Draconis. That was the pole star in 3000 BC. Where if you can precise it back, it goes there. And my question was, how did Brahmanda Purana know this? It should have been only through the Vedas, because the other thing I showed from Virdagargya to Maitrayaniya. So here also it should be so. And it turns out to be so. There is a text called Taittiriya Aranyaka, which is again repeated quite a bit in South India. I know all these mantras are very common, whether the meaning is known or not. It discusses a Divya Shakvaraha Shishumaraha. It is a celestial animal called Shishumara, and the end of that is going to be Abhaya. His name is called Abhaya. Finally, it became Dhruva. It discusses, it gives the position of the animal, the point of the animal, where which star is located. So you can easily see that this star should belong to the older period. That is the same thing which I have put up here in a bigger one, like this. And, this was the polar circle, the circle which is shown. Any star which is visible on that becomes the pole star during that period. Now, today it is 2000, that is Alpha Polaris is the pole star. But Dhruva could have been, and Suniti is a star next to that, around 3000 BC. And this is what, as Dhruva Darshana continues from that time in the marriages. And the mantra is this, which has been taken from the Vedic mantras. And whether the Purohits know it or not, they repeat the same mantra and show some star if it is in the night, or even in the morning, they show the hand and then finish with it. That is what is happening. But it's a cultural trait, it's a stellar, it's a celestial culture. Like yesterday, there was a Karva Chauth or whatever, which is also connected with celestial phenomenon. This is how we have been doing. Now, the same thing which I am showing in a different way, with the NCP, the North Celestial Pole, it is fixed. It looks like an animal, but in modern times, it is called like a dragon in the software its picture. That should not matter. An interesting thing, this was perfectly at 90 degrees in 2830 BC. Later on, its declination changed. The declination changing also, we can calculate, that is the diagram of that. And it was not circumpolar for some places as time passed. For example, in South India, Kanchipuram and those places, the circumpolarity, they knew that it was somewhere there. At least they could identify, perhaps they showed it. That I don't know. But circumpolarity was lost. So, any season, they were not able to visit it. And this continued towards the end. And when you come to the modern time, even in Banaras and Kurukshetra, it's such a low altitude for its visibility. I think there was some discussion among the people there, which is the pole star to be shown to the bride, because the original one was so low and it was not visible, and there is a new one which the Siddhantic astronomers were promoting as Dhruva, starting from Brahmagupta onwards. They did not bother about Shishumarani anyway. They were only bothered about Dhruva. And Dhruva had already come to the near the pole in the 15th century, and one Padmanabha created an instrument to measure time. And that instrument is available in Pune in the museums even now, which you can see, called the Dhruva Brahma Yantra, to find out the time in the night by locating how much the Dhruva has moved. That is the Matsya, that is the polar fish has moved. That is how it was done. And the important thing here is, for some people, this was losing thing, the cultural context. And if you ask South Indian people, many of them say, no, no, it is Arundhati Darshana, not Dhruva Darshana. But in the Sanskrit Griha Sutras, it is written Arundhati Dhruva or only Dhruva in some of the texts. It is like that. But in the north, they know about the Dhruva Darshana well. I don't know whether it is possible to animate it. I think it's not possible, perhaps. So I just showed the two. Okay, it is moving. This is the fish, and this is the dolphin or the Shishumara. You can see the time is changing here. This whole thing is like a dance. So slowly it moves. And this polar fish, the mouth of this come to the polar point, and that is the present day pole star. And this is such a long period, about 3000 BC, 3000 years, or even 5000 years. The question comes up, is this embedded in our culture? Everywhere it is there. You take anything, and if you can go through the text. So I prepared, this is my last slide, a stratigraphy of text, Sanskrit text. And this stratigraphy, you can see, like in archaeology, proceeds from 3000 BC up to 2000 CE, about 5000 years. So today it is only a popular tradition, as child prince Dhruva and all of that. But when you come to Taittiriya Aranyaka and it knows about 3000 BC, it is very well defined and how it is. But as you move towards along the diagonal like this, more matter of fact Dhruva comes into picture. And you come to this corner, you can see that this is the Dhruva Brahma Yantra of the 15th century, which is in the museum piece I said. At the same time, there was, I'm sure, there was some reference to Vedanta, and that is the last part of Veda or whatever. The Vedanta developed only due to movement of Dhruva. Because in the Maitraniya Aranyaka, which belonged to 1800 BC, the first question Brihadratha, the king, asks why Dhruva is also moving. So he's so much perturbed with the transient nature of the universe. He asks so many questions, and Dhruvasya Prachalanam. And then, of course, the Rishi explains him Prana, Brahman, and all of that comes later on. And also Surya Yonihi Kalasya and Kalam Brahmet Upasita, it says, and Kala is Brahma. That is how it has to be done and all of that. So Vedanta has originated only out of Dhruva because you need a fixed point. Dhruva became a Dhruva. So what is Chuta? What is Achyuta? These are the questions. Well, anyway, there are also a iconic representation of Dhruva in some of the South Indian things, particularly in Karnataka, which I have showed there. And this has been immortalized by Kalidasa in a shloka, which is here. Dhruvena Bhartra Dhuva Darshanaya Prayujyamana Priya Darshanena Sa Drishta Ityananam Unnamaya Hrisanna Kanti Katama Yuvacha. This is in Kumar Sambhava 7th canto. Such a beautiful way. All of that he condenses into one shloka. And it is also an indirect reference that as per the law, that's the Grihya Sutra law, the bride has to say, yes, I have seen. If it doesn't say I have seen, then the marriage is not complete. So he says, Katama pivacha, drishtamiti katama pivacha. Even if it is not seen, they will say it is seen is what is in the Grihya Sutra. But he made it so beautiful that Dhruva Darshana was practiced and so much. And there are several other Sanskrit texts like Shishupalavada. It also discusses Dhruva. There are quite a few. Al-Baruni has written about Dhruva. He says Shishumara, and he criticizes Hindus that Hindus think that their pole star is in a constellation called Shishumara, which is called Susmar in Persian, he writes. So these are the very peculiar things which are there. And you can see that this overlaps with the Harappan culture. Perhaps when that period, the start, there was no pole star. Because it was before 3000 BC, there was no pole star. But in a certain period, this came into being, and that was something when the culture should have burst out. Well, thank you so much.